My name is Joanne Sanchez. Today is October the 11th, 2000, and I am at the home of Pete and Teresa Casarez, and I will be interviewing both of them today for the U.S. Latino and Latina World War II Oral History Project. And we're going to start with Pete. And thank you very much, Pete, for letting us interview you. I really appreciate it. And I would like you to tell us some things about your childhood, starting with what were your favorite experiences from your childhood?
Well, my favorite experience was going to Guadalupe Church. See, we lived just a half block from there, and my experience was walking down there, and that was the playground, what it was at that day and time. They had a baseball field out there, and where it's not there anymore. But I remember that's when I was around 6 or 7 years old, when I used to go down there and enjoy playing with the rest of the kids. That everyone used to bring the kids out there because there was no such things as television or anything, movies or nothing like that. But just going there and playing ball was just a very big experience for me. It was something that I always looked forward to seeing. Most every day I used to just love that. I used to just love to go down and do that because it was great.
And who did you play ball with?
Well, with just the rest of the kids around the area, and of course my brothers, of course they were a little older, but they all used to go down to the playground, and then you used to hang around with older boys, and I hung around with my age kids, and it was just a lot of fun.
And what was tell me about your brothers and your siblings.
Well, my brothers, they were a little older than I was. However, we all used to play together a lot of times. When there was not enough kids around the area, we all used to just mingle around and play. And most of course, the biggest thing that we played was baseball, softball. We used to play a lot of softball, and that's where I learned how to play ball and everything else. And from there on, I went into a sub junior league and then junior league, and I learned how to play baseball. And but it started there in Guadalupe, and it was just a lot of fun for me, because there was nothing else really to do except that. And so it was just like I said, a daily thing was beautiful.
And was this a league through Our Lady of Guadalupe, or was it an Austin league? Or
No, the leagues were later on in the other parks when we grew a little older. This was just the beginning was in Guadalupe Church there. It was just people around there. They were like my oldest brothers and his friends. They all used to get teams together. I mean, they just used to get together and mix them up, and then say, well, we're going to have a little baseball, two teams here and one there, so we're going to go ahead and select so and so, and that's just what the way it was. It was
was
fun.
that every day, or
Most every day, yes, ma'am. Most every day, of course, except on Sunday, but most every day, including Saturdays, we used to just do a lot of that.
okay? What I'd like to do now is ask you about your parents.
Mhm.
Describe your dad for me. Where
Well,
did he come from? What was he like?
well, of course, my dad and mother both came from Mexico. Like I said, and of course, this was before my time, because they lived here in Texas, and then from here they moved to Michigan, and that's where I was born, in Michigan. And later on in the years, they had to come back because my mother's mother, who got very sick, and so they came back when I was about 4 years old, 5. And so they moved down here, and then mother decided not to move back. So then that's when it was. We just stayed here in Texas. But my dad was a very good person. He had of course, the whole family, and he was a working man. He never did lay around like a lot of people would. He was a hard working man. He worked hard all his life, and as a matter of fact, when he was here in Texas, he worked for Austin Concrete, making those cement pipes. And so he did that until he till he became of a retired age, which is 65. So but he was a good person. He was a very nice person. He never would hardly get mad at us for anything. I mean, if we ever did something wrong, he would always try to correct us in the right manner. But he was very good about that. He was a very good person, very good father. Now my mother was the same way. She was a very good person. She always managed to give us what we wanted, although we didn't have hardly anything. So but we're talking about food on the table. That's one thing about her, that she always managed to have food on the table for us and all the family, and she just made sure that we would not go hungry, because that day and time a lot of people did go hungry, because that was talking about way back in the 40s, and there was no money then, or late 30s and 40s, and it was hard times. And like I said, if we wanted any spending money, we had to go out and earn it. So what we did, we used to go out and deliver circulars and deliver them from house to house, like all the circulars that you get on the mail nowadays. We used to deliver them all over town. We used to go, and we used to have this person who'd drive us, and he said, "Okay, you go from here, this block, 2 or 3 blocks, and deliver those things, and I'll give you some more." And he would pay us nicely. I mean, I don't even remember what it was, but it was spending money. I mean, it was just so much, 15 or 20 cents an hour or whatever it was. But that day and time, it was a lot of money for us. So we managed to do that, and we were able to go to school and have a few pennies left in our pockets to spend for candy or whatever. But that's the way it was. That's the way life was.
And what about your brothers and sisters?
Well, my brothers, they did the same thing that I did. I mean, we were always together and doing different things, delivering circulars, whatever. We were together. Of course, my sisters, they didn't. They just stayed home. They were raised to be at home and do things around the house and stuff like this. But they didn't have to go out and work or anything until they became of age. But during all their time of growing, they were in school, and then they were just we try to help them out, with whatever we had. We'd share it and whatever.
What were your parents' names and your siblings' names?
Well, my father's name was they called him Abraham. He was Abram, and my mother's name was Euphemia. And of course, I had my oldest brother was Frank, which that is the living family, Frank, and then Gene. His name was Eugene, and then there was me, and then there was a sister, Mary Louise, and then there was Frutoso, brother, and then Nellie, and that was our family. And of course, my mother adopted one who was my cousin's son. When his wife and him divorced, he said he didn't know what to do with his boy, so my mother adopted that boy. And he's still living. He lives here in South Austin somewhere in close by. And we ran across him the other day, and but he's doing real good. He's married now, and he has 3 children.
And what is his name?
Roberto. Mm-hmm. Roberto. Of course, his name is Casarez too, because went through courts and adopted it legally. So
your brother was telling me that your house still is in existence here?
Oh yes, definitely, yes.
Uh-huh. Describe your house. What was your house
Well,
like, and tell me where it was.
The house is on 1105 East 9th, which is half a block from Guadalupe Church, and it had 1 bedroom, another bedroom, and then a bath. And then it had on the other side, then it had a big hallway from the entrance to the back. Then it had another room, which was the living room, and then there was a dining area, and then there was, of course, the kitchen was there, and then there was a porch. But course, the living room in that day was used as a bedroom because it was a crowded family.
How many children were there?
Well, it was all of us. It was five of us, three, four, five, six of us, and of course two girls and us, and then my parents. And of course, that day and time, way back, we had an uncle, my father's brother, and his mother and their mother, who was living with us at that time.
Wow.
Well, back then,
Mhm.
it was like I said, it was hard, and people used to just live that way. I mean, there was a, like I said, there was a sleeping porch back there, and we all used to sleep back there. It was, of course, during the summer. They laid blankets out there, and we just sleep out there all the time, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, it didn't bother us.
Sounds like a pajama party.
Right. and
What
so
was, go ahead.
and so therefore, it was I mean, my life was it wasn't a sad life. It was a nice life. I mean, of course, I mean, we made it joyful because we always managed to do things here and there.
What traditions did your parents from Mexico, did your parents maintain in the household?
Well, my mother was a very religious person, and she always maintained everything, saints on the walls and everything else, and during the Christmas holidays, she'd always built an altar with Christmas trees, and she'd have the rosaries and invite the neighborhoods to come in, and then there would be what they call the resting of God, and then right after the year, or whatever, he would come back and they would pray some more, and it means that he was re-risen from the dead, and of course we had mother always managed to make a lot of tamales for that because that was tradition that came from Mexico. And so that's what she did. She just made a lot of that and invited all the neighbors, and we used to have a full house of people there in those days.
Did you have aunts and uncles in the area too?
Oh yes,
or-
we had aunts, and I had like I said, I had another uncle who he was living not too far from there, but then his wife passed away, and so he remarried again, and so he had a second family, but they always used to mix together. They all used to come by, and they were always a close family.
What was Austin like back then? These were Depression years and.
Well,
after
Austin
Depression.
back in those days was a very small city, very small, and of course the downtown area was always there. We had a railroad. It was the bus. It wasn't a bus, but it was a rail system like they're trying to build nowadays. It used to come right through the Congress Avenue and down into the Sixth Street, and I mean, of course, we'd ride it occasionally, not all the time, but whenever we wanted to go to town, I think for a nickel you could ride all the way down. So it was fair, but that's the way it was, and I mean, Austin was to me it was I enjoyed it very much. I loved it, because we had, like I said, we were delivering those circulars in. And then at one time, I even sold newspapers out there on Congress Avenue, out there on Ninth. I remember the street on Ninth and Congress.
Mhm.
I used to deliver, I mean, not deliver, but I used to sell the newspaper, the San Antonio News, and then a Sunday paper. I'd get a bunch of them and sell them. People would come in the cars and they'd just buy them, because, I mean, at that day and time, there wasn't no deliveries, so people would come downtown and buy the papers. So that's the way it was.
You had mentioned that your mother always managed to put food on the table.
Hmm.
I know I always hear Depression stories. Um, I used to hear them from my parents.
Hmm.
And what was it like, do you think, for your family as Mexican Americans during the Depression? Do you think it was worse for Mexican Americans, or do you think everybody
Well,
had it about the same, or what were some of the difficulties that your parents had to endure because of the depression?
the only thing about it is, like I said, my father always worked during the Depression. I mean, he had a job.
That's great.
So, like I said, he worked hard. I mean, I know that he worked very hard, and one of the things that I remember very distinctly too is that uh, our family was a little bit better off than some because my father used to have a car. Now that day and time, people didn't have anything, but my father had a car. He had a car that he bought from when he bought it in Michigan. He brought it, and it was a 24 model Buick, and he drove that car to work, and he'd pick up his neighbors that go to work with him, and then come back with him, and so, but my father worked hard, and so he managed to have a car.
Great.
Hmm.
Let's talk about your school years. Where did you go to school? What was it like? How did you get to school?
Well, to school, it was just a half a block because at that day and time, Guadalupe Church had a school there, private school. So I went to private school there.
Mm-hmm.
I went to. They had nuns as the teachers there, and
And
so
how was the school?
well, it was beautiful. I mean, it was an old building, but I mean, it was beautiful as far as teaching was concerned. The teachers were very nice. I mean, they tried to teach you everything that they could, and they would always if you felt like you couldn't understand anything, that you could stay after school, and they would be there to teach you, to tell you how to, how to get your woodwork done, your not your woodwork but your regular work, and how to do things, and like I said, I personally, one of the sisters there, Sister Mary and Joseph, she taught me how to type when I was in the 6th grade.
Great.
Now that's really something very unusual, to take typing when you're in elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
But I did. I took. She would teach me the way. She would play the piano and go A, B, 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 and so forth, and I learned typing through her.
Great.
And so therefore I remember those things because those are very important things, and like I said, the sisters were very nice. They were very lovable persons. They tried to do everything they could for you.
How big was the school? Do you remember what it looked like? Can you describe the school?
It's a 2-story building.
Uh-huh.
It was a 2-story building. The classrooms were there, and they had a recreation area on the bottom, and but it was they had, let's see, they used to have first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and 6th grade plus kinder. So it was 7 classrooms that they had there. And
Was the school a segregated school?
Oh, no.
Were there just Mexican Americans there? Or
no,
was-
well, that's all there really was because that's all they lived in the neighborhood.
So it was a neighborhood school.
Oh yes,
Mm-hmm.
But no, it was not. I mean, if anybody else wanted to come, they were welcome to come to school.
Mm-hmm. But could Mexican Americans go to other schools?
Oh
if they
yes,
wanted to?
definitely, yes, yes. I know other people went to Bickler, or to Palm School. They went to, of course, at one time they wanted them to go to the school on the east side there, but there was some that were in that other area that could go to the other schools.
Mm-hmm. Now, after Guadalupe School, where did you go to school?
From there, I went to Allen Junior High.
Mm-hmm.
Allen Junior High, which used to be on 9th Street.
And what was that like? What was that?
Well,
building
that was very nice. I mean, it was.
Is the building still there?
Let's see. I think the building burned down.
Mm-hmm.
I think it burned down. But no, it was very nice. I mean, I went when I went in there. I took some courses, and of course I took typing again, but because I knew the typing, but I took it anyway. And I'll tell you, it was a lot of fun because we had a good instructor in the gym class that we used to go out and play ball, and football and baseball and soccer and all of that kind of during the terms of whatever it was, and And we used to go down there and enjoy it very much. And of course, I mean, after school, I mean, we'd go out and sell newspapers or whatever just to make a few pennies or nickels. But I mean, I enjoyed Allen Junior High very much.
And then after Allen,
Austin High.
you went to
Austin High, yes, ma'am.
And Austin High back then was where? In what building?
Well, the building is still there. It's still there on 11th and Guadalupe.
Well.
Yeah, well, it's up in that area. You know where it is.
The old Austin High.
The old Austin High, yes.
Is that the one on West Avenue?
It's on 11th and
West.
on 8th, 10th, 12th and anyway, I forget where it was. Anyway. But anyway, that was a nice school. It was very nice. The teachers were very lovable. They try to teach you everything they can. And of course, when I went in there, they used to have this mechanic courses, auto mechanics. And since my dad had a car, I wanted to take auto mechanics, and I did. I took courses in auto mechanics, and that's what I used to do. I used to go to school, and of course, instead of having recreation, you'd have auto mechanics.
Did you learn how to fix your dad's car?
Oh yes. I didn't learn how to fix it totally, but I did learn a lot. I did learn a lot to fix cars. Of course, that day and time, there's no such thing as computers, so everything was manual. I mean, we'd take the cars, take it apart, and go get a part for it, put it together, and put it back. Oh yes.
And how long did you stay at Austin High?
I stayed there. I stayed there 2 years, going on 3, when I went into the Navy.
So you left Austin High to
yes.
enlist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But I enjoyed all the time that I was there. I enjoyed it very much. There was a very limited amount of Mexican American people, but it was very enjoyable.
And
we never had
well?
We never had any problems with anybody. Mm-hmm. It was just we just mingled around with everybody and had a good time.
Do you remember what you were doing the moment that you heard that the U.S. had entered World War II?
Yes, ma'am. I was at Guadalupe Church. We had gone down at, like I said, the playground. It was on that afternoon, and then someone, I think somebody from the church area, came out there and said that, oh, guess what? We're in war. Somebody had heard it on the radio or something. I don't know where, but they heard it on the radio that there was a war, that they had bombed Pearl Harbor. And so, of course, I mean, it shook us up totally, but we didn't know what was going to happen after that. And of course, I mean, after that, we just kept on wondering what was going on, We were just wondering what was going to go on, because we had a little radio at home that we turned it on to hear the news and see what was going on, but it was horrible, because, we were all used to just laying back, taking it easy, and then all of a sudden you hear that we're in war, and of course, we didn't really know what it meant to be in war, but I knew that it was eventually going to affect us in one way or the other.
So you were at Austin High until you
Mm-hmm.
enlisted.
Yes.
Uh-huh. And you were doing, was that when you were doing the selling the circulars, or
Delivering circulars, and that day and time when I was in high school, I got me a spare job with this optical company, and I was learning how to grind lenses, optical this.
Mm-hmm.
And after school, I would come down and work. He'd leave me some work there to do.
And where was that?
It was at the Littlefield building. The name was Globe Optical.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Shelton was the owner of it, and it was on the Littlefield building. Is still there. It used to be right there on the second floor.
Did you have any difficulties getting into this profession? Or?
Not really, because No, because Dr. Shelton was a very good person, and I don't remember how I came about. I went there and I asked for a job, and he said, well, he said, you want to learn how to make glasses? Because at that day and time, there was very little people that knew anything about opticals. And so, and of course, he had the machines there, and he says, well, my son here will teach you how to grind lenses.
And was Eugene, your brother, already there at Globe Optical, or was?
No, he still wasn't there. He was baking. He was doing bakery work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I learned a little bit of it, grinding lenses and doing a little bit of work there, and they taught me how to make them because we used to do it all by hand. You know, it was all done by hand. We had machines that used to do all of that, but we used to have to block them in those things with a torch and everything else.
Oh my!
And
so how long did it take to make glasses?
Well, like for instance, if you had a pair of glasses that you didn't have just a single vision, we would go ahead and grind it. It would take us about 45 minutes to an hour to grind them, then to cut them and edge them, and then mount them. Of course, I didn't know the mounting or anything. I learned it eventually, but at the beginning, I would just do the grinding, and we had to get the thickness on it. We had machines that would give us a thickness on it, and we would go ahead and give it to the other man, and then he would go ahead and check it all out, and to see that it had the right power on there, and then he would cut it. And that day and time, he used to just go ahead and cut them. He used to put a hand and draw a thing around it, and then you just go around by hand cutting them.
And then you had to smooth them out.
Yes, ma'am. But sometimes when he would do that, he cut it right in half, so start all over again.
Wow.
But it was an experience, because from there on I learned how to do it, and I learned how to do the complete grinding of lenses. Then I went into the service, and then when I came back, well, I went with this other optical company, and I learned how to do the cutting, the edging, which is the mounting and everything else. And then those doctors over there, they taught me how to fit glasses, and so I did that for years.
And did you go back to Globe Optical?
No. I went to Doctors Ward and Treadwell.
Mm-hmm.
They used to be on 7th and Congress.
And how many years were you with them?
Well, I was with them, I guess, in 44, 54, 50, about 10 years, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
10.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I went into, well, at that day and time, the doctors were already older persons, you know, two doctors, Ward and Treadwell. Then Dr. Ward passed away, and then Dr. Treadwell took it over, and then his sons became optometrists.
Mm-hmm.
But then when Dr. Treadwell started to retire, I just went to another company. And those two sons are still running an optical place, but I went to Dickinson. They called me to go to Dickinson Optical, and I was with them for about close to 40 years.
And was that your last
That
job?
was my last one.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did. I just did it all. And of course, I used, like I said, you know, it was at that day and time, it was hard, but it really wasn't hard for me. I mean, I serviced and fitted glasses to lawyers, attorneys, representatives, even governors.
Wonderful.
Yes, ma'am.
Which governor?
Well, the Shivers,
Uh-huh.
the Mrs. Shivers used to come there with me, and All Red, they used to come there. And one time I even adjusted the glasses for Lyndon Johnson. Of course, he used to go to Texas State, but he just happened to be there, and I just happened to be there, and he walked in there and he said, "Could I get my glasses adjusted?" I said, "Certainly, sir. Come on, sit down." And I took care of him. But it was just really a lot of. I mean, I used to enjoy it so much. And of course, from there, we had I was involved with Dickinson Optical. Then we opened a place in Medical Park Tower, and so I moved out there to to run that place in Medical Park Tower for him, and it was, and of course I knew a lot of people over there too anyway, because I had known a lot of people from the beginning. And at that day and time, people started, the lawyers that used to be in the downtown area was started going into those big buildings, because Medical Park Tower was recently, it was just recently, it was, at that time it was built, and it was new, so we went in there.
About when was that built?
Oh, that must have been in the 80s, 70s, 80s.
So you ended up in Medical
Oh
Park
yes,
Tower.
in Medical Park Tower.
What do you attribute your success in your job?
Well, I think just the inspiration that I had. I've always wanted to do things. Like when I was in high school, like I said, I went into the mechanics. I wanted to be a mechanic. Of course, that didn't happen, but nevertheless, that helped me a lot because it taught me how to do things, how to handle machinery and stuff. And so when I went into the service, that also helped me a lot. See, that's why when I went into the Navy during the war, I went in there and I went. I took my training in Houston, and then they sent me, and because of my record of being a mechanic there in schools, they just put me into the Seabees, which is construction battalion in the Navy. And so when I went over there, I did work. I did greasing the trucks and cars. I drove a truck. I did construction work, and I did road work. I did cement work. Just you name it, I did everything.
Where were you stationed? And you mentioned that you had enlisted.
Yes. Well, I was stationed from Houston. They sent me to San Diego. San Diego, they sent me to Hawaii. And then from Hawaii, they sent me to Guam, where I was my permanent station in Guam. I stayed there for 18 months.
What was Guam like back then?
It was just a small island. Guam was, I think, it was 7 miles wide and 9 miles long, and had a little mountain out there. But they had villages. They had people there. They had a lot of people that came. Oh well, heck, way before the war. People used to get into the ships, and there was a lot of Spaniards out there. And then there was a lot of Spaniards, and then they got together with the Japanese that were there, and they mingled and everything else. So there was it was an interracial thing that people that lived there, the villagers, were there.
Did you get to know any of the villagers?
Oh yes, I knew a lot of them. I used to go out there and talk to them all the time. Well, we were just when we were free to go out, we had a village just right across the street from where our base was. Just about 2 blocks from there.
Tell me about your base. What did your base look like?
Well, our base was just a plain old thing. We lived under carpets. We had tents. We had tents. We built a bunch of tents, one after the other, and there was 4 of us on each one of them. They just had 4 cots, and we just had all that stuff right there. Of course, when it rained real hard, sometimes we'd get rain on there, but nevertheless, that's the way it was. We lived under those tents, and of course, the officers, they lived in Quonset huts. If you know what that is. Do you know what a Quonset hut is?
I'm not sure.
It's like a garage made out of just different things, just aluminum. But and we just go ahead and go up there and build them, and that's what we did for a long time. We built Quonset huts for them.
When you enlisted, did you know other people who went along with you, or?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Well, I had 2 other close friends of mine that I knew that used to play ball with me. We went and took our training together.
And who were they?
One of them was Salvino Mendoza, and the other one was Joe, but he's already passed away. And so we were in training together. We were shipped together to California, San Diego, and we were there for a while. And then they were shipped. They were put in ships, and they kept me there for a while. And then they put me on the ship, but to go to Guam. I mean, to go, but I had to go to Hawaii first.
And what was the ship like? What was the trip like?
Well, it was very nice. I mean, of course, I mean, the way it was, you take a room this size here. How many people would you think would be sleeping in a place like this? Of course, it was what they did. They had those walls there, and they had the they had like a staircase here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people were sleeping under
Oh my.
on one wall, and then on the other wall you'd have the same amount of people, the same amount of here and there. So that's the way it was.
So it was packed.
It was packed. I mean, it was. Well, I mean, that's the only way they could do it, really, because the ships were only so big, and we'd had thousands of people in there.
Mm.
So every room had 50 or 60 people in there.
And what did you do on the ship?
Nothing. We just, well, we helped in the kitchen, washed dishes or whatever, because do something anyway.
How long was the journey?
Well, it took me about 10 days to go to Hawaii, and then from Hawaii to Guam it took me about 25 days.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Of course, I mean, when we went, it was the war was it was awful. So we had destroyers right there with us,
And what
protecting
year
us.
was this when you
Well, that was in 44.
1944?
Yeah, that was because I joined in 44, and it was
In May.
in May. So therefore this was right in August and September, October when I got on a ship.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Describe to us your daily life as a CB, from
Well-
when you got up to when you went to bed.
Well, the thing about it is, we like I said, they put us in those tents, and we were sleeping. We had 4 people on each one, and then of course we'd get up in the morning and they'd assign us to different jobs. And like the first job that I had was we were just in the base, working all over there, just trying to build things for everything. We had to build the kitchen had to be, because we didn't even have a kitchen. We didn't have anything, so we had to start building from scratch. And of course, I was never a carpenter, but I would help doing this, bringing in stuff and nailing or whatever. And we finally built it, and then we finally built a little church there.
How many men were in this group?
Well, in our group there was been about 15 or 20 of us, because they'd split them to go to different places.
And were some of them Mexican Americans, or were...
There was a few, yes, ma'am. There was a few. There was in my company, I think there was only one, but we had several companies. But we'd run across them all the time, and some of them did different things. They were like me. I did construction work, like I said. I even worked in the kitchen. I mean, washing dishes and feeding people and all of that.
How were you treated in the military?
I was treated fine. I mean, I didn't have any problem whatsoever. Our officers, our petty officers, they used to live in the same tents that we did, and a lot of them used to live, and they live in the front, and we'd go to the back. And of course, in the morning they would just wake us up. They'd go around hollering, "All right, get up, everybody, get up, come on!" And we'd line up, and then they said, "Well, today you're going to do this, do that, and do the other," and that's what we would do. And of course, when we were doing, like for instance, road works out there, fixing roads for the trucks and everything else, we had so many people that were doing that, so we would, I mean, that was our daily job for a while, until we'd finish that. Then we'd go into something else. But like I said, I did that. I did construction work. I did in the kitchen. Then I was running the grease rack for a long time. I did that, running a grease rack. And then I decided to drive a truck, and I was a truck driver. I picked up personnel and take them to their jobs, and then bring them back and take them wherever. And that was basically the last thing that I did, driving a truck.
What did you all do for fun?
Well, we had movies. That was about it. I mean, there was nothing. We didn't have any activities. I mean, like I say, of course, on Sundays, I used to, since I was a truck driver, I would go up and borrow the truck on Sunday so that we could take a trip, and I'd have to have 7 or 8 signatures that would go with me, and they'd sign the paper, and I'd take it up there, and they said, okay. They'd give us gasoline and fix us food and everything, and we'd go all day long Sunday. We'd go to the other side of the Guam and go to the beaches, and they'd go swimming or go to the mountains, do whatever. And that was our fun.
How did your parents feel about your enlisting, given the fact that you had 2 brothers who were also in the military?
At that day and time, I was going to be drafted anyway. I felt that I was, but my 2 brothers were already gone, and I just felt like everybody was leaving, and I was the only person of my friends that was still around, so I went ahead and volunteered. Of course, this optical place had me on. They took care of me, and they fixed it to where I wouldn't have to go into the service right away. But when I decided, I said, I wanna go. I said, I'm just tired of being here. So I went into the service. I volunteered.
And your parents?
My mother said, well, if that's what you want, I said, just go right ahead. Just.
How do you think it affected your family to have 3
Well,
of you?
My mother was, I'm sure it affected her very, because, we were all very close. We had never left the house. We were all living there. And I'm sure that it affected her entirely. But then her being so close to the church, it helped a lot. I mean, because she was always in church, praying for us and everything else. But the only thing about it was, nobody ever knew where I was at. I mean, I could write letters, but I could not tell them where I was at. So really, nobody knew where I was at while I was overseas.
And were you in contact with your brothers who were in the service?
Well, I was in contact with them. I'd write to them, and they would write to me, because when I was in Hawaii, one of my brothers was in one of the other islands, but I could never go to the other island. They wouldn't let us go. But anyway, we wrote to each other.
And did you know where they were, or they?
Oh yes. Well, I had an idea that one was in the Philippines and the other one was in Japan later on. But I mean, and we just wrote them, APO, and the letter would get to them. But I couldn't even tell them where I was at. I couldn't say I'm in Guam, because our letters would be, they would read them, and if they saw something that wasn't there, they would just cut it out. So you couldn't really tell them where you were at. So they'd tell you, said, don't tell your parents or nobody where you're at, because we're going to cut them out anyway.
Who did you get letters from, other than your brothers?
From her.
From your wife?
Mm-hmm.
When did you meet your wife?
Oh, I met her. I met her right before I went to the service, and then I got letters from my brothers. My sisters used to write to me. My mother used to write to me, and luckily, my mother taught us Spanish, so she didn't write English at all. I mean, until later on in years she did, because she took classes for American citizenship, but she wrote in Spanish. But she taught us how to write Spanish and how to read it, so we would write to her in Spanish.
Good.
But even then, I couldn't write her and tell her where I was at because they had somebody that knew Spanish that cut them out. So,
Clip it out.
so really, I spent the time out there and nobody knew where I was at.
Mm-hmm. What about other kinds of communication? Did you hear? Did you know what was going on?
They would tell us, yes, ma'am. We knew more or less what was going on in the other wars. We knew where things were going because they used to tell us. The officers, the petty officers, used to tell us that, well, look, this is what's happening right now in the world, and eventually this is going to happen, or that or the other. But just like when we went in there, when the rest of the service went into invading Japan and all those islands, well, they would let us know about it because they were preparing us to go with them too.
Mm-hmm. Were you ever right near any of the fighting?
Only when we got to Guam, because the Marines had just been in there and they had just taken the island over, and it must have been about 2, 3, or 4 weeks that we came in right after that.
And you were attached to which group of
To
Marines?
the 3rd Marines.
Mm-hmm.
We were attached to the 3rd Marines. So they went in there and did all the fighting, and then we went in there and did all the cleaning, and and of course there was still danger. I mean, there was still danger because there was still a few Japanese left in those places that you didn't know. I mean, you just had to be careful.
Were you ever in danger? Or
No, I was never in danger when I got there at all. No, I never felt in danger. The only thing was that like I said, when we first got there, they used to just tell us at night, we don't want no lights. So as soon as it get dark, we just live out there without any lights.
And you couldn't use lights just in case there were some Japanese still
No,
around?
no, we didn't have any. No, we didn't have any lights at all. But then after a few months, they felt that we were pretty safe. So then we started getting lights at night and everything else. Then we started getting movies and stuff like this. But we never had, we never had dances or anything like that. They didn't have no bands. They didn't have no music or nothing like that. So there was no type of recreation really. There was no type of recreation that we had. That is in the base, like some bases have dances we didn't have anything like that. The only time that I can remember was there were some people that came from the United States over there that it was about 5 or 6 ladies that they were connected with, I don't know what, but they went up there and they just went up there and did some dancing and singing, and that was it at the stage. But that was it. But we didn't really, but we had movies every night, so we'd go to the movies. That's all we
And
could
what
do.
kind of movies did you watch?
Just every kind of movie, the movies that were here in the United States, they were shipping them over there, and we'd see them. Some of those we would see already before, we had seen before, but some of them were new movies, and it was enjoyable,
How would you say that World War II changed your life?
Well, the only thing about it, I think it changed my life in a way that, because I was gone, and I learned how to live by myself. Where else otherwise it would have been tied down to the house. But this way, I traveled to all those places, and I just felt real relaxed.
How old were you when you enlisted?
18.
18.
I was almost 19, and I from there on I went and I came back. I came down to Washington, down to Oregon, Denver, and all those places that I had never would have seen.
Mm-hmm.
And we still travel now. But it opened me up. It surely did. It opened my life up, and I learned a lot of things by being in the service. Certainly, you learn an awful lot. Believe me, you learn an awful lot.
What were you doing when you heard that the war was over?
Well, let's see. I was what was I doing? Let's see. It happened. I was walking. I was walking someplace close to my tent. We were. We didn't work that day or something. I don't know why we were doing, but we were walking, and then somebody came out there from one of the officers. Came out there and told us, "Hey, the war is over." And of course, I mean, we didn't believe him at first, but then we went up there and tried to find out more of the details at the at at the kitchen or at the offices, and they told us, yes, the war is just over just now. Just United States already took over and everything, so the war is over. So we were very happy, but no kind of celebration really. Just celebrated among ourselves there, and that's it.
And you said that you stayed there.
I stayed there until 46.
May 46.
Mm-hmm.
And what were you doing after the war?
We did just what we were doing, building roads. Like I said, and I was, they were doing a lot of construction, and a lot of construction. We did a lot of construction there. We did a lot of work, keeping the cars greased and all of that, and of course we built Admiral Nimitz' home. I helped on that. I helped pour the cement on that.
And where was that home?
Well, it was in one of the mountains out there. I mean, it's really hard to describe, but it was up in one of the roads up there and up into one of the mountains out there. So we built him a nice 2-story home out there.
Did you meet him?
Well, he used to come down there when we were working. He used to come down there and look at it,
Mm-hmm.
and he'd just say, "Hi there, hi," and then that's it.
And what did it look like?
Well, he just, he was just a real down-to-earth person, looked like.
What did the home look like?
Well, it was just a nice 2-story home.
Mm-hmm.
A nice, it was built with a porch, and it's built with a nice tennis court. Of course, we had the cement, so we built the whole thing.
Was it a large home or?
It was a 2-story house. Yes, ma'am. It was. I think it had about 3 or 4 bedrooms.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't work on it all. I just worked at the beginning, and then I transferred into something else. But we could see it all the time anyway.
How long was he there?
Well, he was there up until the end of the war. Yeah, he was there. He'd go in and out, come and go, and he'd go to the other islands and come back.
And what kind of a person was he?
He was a very good person. He was a admiral, so I mean he was high up on there, but he was he was. I mean he. When we were working up there, we'd see him once or twice, and he'd always just say, "Hi there, how y'all doing?" And that's it, Of course, he knew we were building a home for him, so but that was about it. After that, we never saw him anymore. I mean, we just, but it was a very experience. As a matter of fact, we still have that main bridge that we built. The first one that we built, the Ganya Bridge, that was built right in front of our base where we were at, because there was a little creek going from there on to the sea, see, we were right there on the edge of the sea. And so there was a road down there, and there was no road there. They used to go into the creek and go, so we built the bridge there.
And it still exists
It
today?
still exists, yes, ma'am.
Is it a 2-lane bridge?
It was a 2-lane, and now it's a 4-lane. They expanded it. I talked to some of my CVs, and that they were down there in Guam about 4 years ago, and they said that they expanded it a little bit, but they said the Ganya Bridge is still there. You guys built it, still there.
You built it well.
Oh yes, well yes ma'am, they built it well. Yes ma'am, had some good contractors.
Okay. My name is Joanne Sanchez. Today is October the 13th, 2000. I'm at the home of Pete and Teresa Casarez, and we are going to be interviewing both of them again today, starting with Pete for the U.S. Latino and Latina World War II Oral History Project, and this is tape 2. Pete, we left off the other day talking about the bridge that you had built in Guam and how that's still in existence. And I wanted you to just add whatever other stories you wanted to tell about the war. So go ahead.
Well, this what I'm going to tell you, what I actually had forgotten to mention it, is something that happened. I guess after I had been in Guam for a year. Like I told you before, when I used to drive the truck, I used to take this sailors with me, the CBs. Used to take them out to all over the city. I mean, Guam. Like I said, it's not a very big island, but anyway, I used to take them to one side of the island where they had a lot of, well, it wasn't exactly a beach, but we used to go swim out there. And then it was kind of like a mountain out there. There's a mountain out there towards one end of it. And we used to go all the way out there and just climb that little mountain and look down and just have a lot of fun out there, because that's all we had to do on Sundays. But anyway, after coming back and all of that, after that, the CBs experienced a lot. They used to thank me for me taking them out there on the truck, because I used to be a truck driver too. And so I always appreciated their tolerance. And one day we were going out to the mess hall to eat, and here it is, something that hadn't happened there. We look out there, and there comes about, I think, 6 Japanese soldiers with their hands up like this.
Oh dear.
They're walking in. Well, our street went through there, and they crossed the street and came into our base where we were, close to the chow line. And so they came out like this, and of course, I mean, our CBs didn't know what to do, except they got their rifles right quick, and they said, well, what's going on? They said, well, this particular Japanese soldiers were hidden in those caves out there where we all used to go and play. But I mean, we didn't know it. But they used to be living in a cave, and they lived there after the war. And they were, I don't know where they got their food from, but can you imagine, after a year, they come on out, and they want to give themselves up. But they didn't even know that the war was over.
Wow.
So then they quickly got this personnel to come out there and check them out and everything else, and soon enough they just put them on a ship and sent them to Japan. But it was really, I was shocked. I mean, of course everybody was, because we didn't even know what was going on. We thought it was a playful thing, but no, it was a real thing. It was real soldiers that just come out of the cave that they've been living there. Can you imagine, all that time, over a year, just living there and hiding, and I don't know, they'd probably go out to get their food during the night, because we were, like I said, we were there during the day, and we never saw anything. Never saw nothing like that. But that was really an experience, and I never will forget it. You don't think about a lot of those things, but it was really something that really shook everybody up, because we just really didn't know what, at that time, what to think about it.
Any other stories that you want to add about your war years? Any other memories that you want to share?
Well, the thing about it is, the thing about it is, in Guam, there really wasn't that much to do. I mean, the only thing we did, we'd mingle with each other, and then we'd go out and, like I said, we'd go out sometimes and go walking or go riding around the islands to meet people, and I met a lot of people out there, a lot of people that lived in the villages. I met a lot of people there, but one of the things that really shook me up, surprised me, was when I got there, and I was walking, and here comes this gentleman. He was an older man, I guess about I'd say about in his 50s. And here he talks to me in Spanish. And of course, I looked at him and I answered him in Spanish, And so he says, don't be surprised. He talked to me in Spanish. He said, don't be surprised. He said, uh, I'm originally from Spain. See, Spaniards used to live there. They used to come in there in ships many years ago. Many years ago, they used to come in there, and of course, some of them just never could go back because they'd lose their ships or whatever. So they just made their home there. So there was a lot of Spanish blood in the Guam area. Besides the Japanese that used to live there, or Chinese or whatever, and so there's a lot of mixture of races there.
Did you get to taste some of their food or their
Well, no,
see their
not
traditions?
not really, because at that time they didn't have any food hardly. I mean, they did not have any food hardly at all, because they were just suffering. Just, I mean, there was nothing. I mean, like I said before, when we first got there, we we were eating nothing but canned food. And one of the things that I do recall, that I do recall, is we used to, those people in those villages used to always ask us about sugar. They wanted sugar because they didn't have any sugar. And of course, we used to take them sugar, and that returns favor. They'd wash your clothes or whatever, and some of them would bring you a little bottle of liquor or something, because they used to make liquor out of those palm trees out there. And so,
how did that taste?
well, I wasn't a drinker, too much of a liquor drinker, but I tasted just like everybody else, and it was a delicious drink. It just had the little taste of a little wine taste, but really liquor. It was really liquor, but it tasted kind of sweet. But that's what we used to do. Just try to support some of those people with the sugar, and sometimes, like I said before, I used to live with two cooks in my tent, and sometimes I'd say, you got any food left over, or whatever. If they'd have it, well, I'd bring it and take it up to them, so they could eat. But the people down there didn't have hardly anything. They just they was living in those villages, and their houses were just made out of straw and all that kind of stuff. And it was just a poor situation for them, really. But we did a lot of work. We did a lot of work for them. We did a lot of helped them out in a lot of ways. But that was just about it. We just at the time, we just could not bring them into our base so that they could eat with us. We couldn't do anything like that. The only ones that we could do that to would be our Marines. Sometimes they would be out there walking around the areas or driving, and they'd ask us, could we come and eat with y'all? And that'd be our guest. We'd always had them in there, because we were attached to the 3rd Marines anyway. But they did not have the cooking situations like we had. The Marines, they don't live like we do. They just live poorly, because they're the ones that are always out there fighting on the front.
So how did they live?
Well, they lived in tents also, and stuff like this, but sometimes they didn't have the right cooking like we did. But they would eat like we did at the beginning, canned food and stuff. I'll tell you, I'm up to here. Canned food.
Tell us about the canned ration.
Well, it was ration food. That's what we used to eat. Whatever they had here, they'd ship it down there, and we'd eat it.
What was your favorite? What was your least
Well,
favorite?
one of the things that I can tell you, that every Wednesday morning we had beans for breakfast. That was typical. That's a Navy tradition, beans on Wednesday morning. And so, anyway, I recall one day, after being there all that time, one morning somebody started hollering, guess what we have for breakfast this morning? We got eggs. We hadn't had eggs in, I don't know, over a year or more. And so when we heard that, we rushed to eat breakfast. And sure enough, they were serving eggs. And oh, I mean, everybody, a lot of people used to not eat breakfast because they didn't care what they had. I mean, it was just beans or stuff, whatever they had leftovers. And but that morning, everybody just eating because they had all kinds of eggs. I'll tell you, they were just people were just starving for eggs. I hadn't had any eggs in over a year, and so I was really proud to have those eggs. Oh, it was really something.
So did that mean that you were going to start to have
Oh yeah.
more eggs?
After that, they started having eggs. But see, that there for a long time, we didn't have anything like that. And another thing too, there was we never had any beer at all. Like bases have beer for sale or whatever. We went the whole year without any beer because they would not. They wouldn't ship them any beer. It was right after the war. But then when they started shipping beer and giving it to our service people, they would ration 2 beers per day. Of course, we didn't drink that much. We drank 1 or 2 beers and that was it. But some of those people didn't even drink at all, so they would give it to the other guys and whatever. But it was an experience, that we when we started getting that stuff back in there, and then we started eating good and everything else. It was amazing. And one of the things too that we used to eat a lot was spam. I think up to now I don't even eat it.
So you don't go to the Spamaramas here?
No, that was typical. The breakfast spam. Oh my God! But that was, I don't know. They used to tell us that sailors ate it all the time. I said, well, not this one here. And I'll tell you, it was amazing. And I recall that some of those people just used to just gallop it down because, of course, there wasn't too much to eat anyway. There wasn't too many meats to eat. There was no meats. You just eat whatever you could. The kind of meats they would eat would be canned food, and that was it. Because they didn't have anything over there that we could say, well, let's kill this hog and eat it. No such thing. But it was a very experience. It was really something. I just remember a lot of those things and what we went through, and
Anything else that you would like to share about the war?
No, like I said, the only thing is with the people down there, the ladies, were always there at our base on the door, wanting to wash our clothes. Of course, most of them, you'd give them a little bit of money as a pay, because they used to go across our base and into a creek and wash the clothes out there. It'd be running water, and that you'll take your clothes and hit it against the rocks, and that's how they wash it. But they did a very good job getting it cleaned, and they'd bring it by, and that's the way it was. We didn't have to worry about washing our own clothes, because see, we didn't have a laundry or nothing. When we got there, they told us, well, you take care of your own clothes, and that's it, period. So we used to go up there and wash our clothes, but after they started coming in, I just let them go ahead and do it for them.
One of the things that we didn't talk about the other day, and I don't know if you wanted to say some things about it, was your training camp. So going backwards a little bit, but
well, the training was I took my training right here in Houston. There was a first of all, that was a base that it was an Army base that they closed down, and then the Navy was hurting for places to do their training. See, most of the training was done in California, but when I went into the Navy, they took us out here to Houston, and that's where we took our training. And the base was real nice. We it had barracks and everything else, and we did a lot of training there. And of course, they had the ships out there where we used to go down there and train. They'd take us out into the water, And then they had those big old nets on the ships where you had to just climb on with ropes, get up there to the end and get in. The reason for that was it was a training thing that they say that if you're ever out at sea and something happens to your ship, and if you're in the water and another ship comes in, they're going to throw a big net out there so you can just climb up on it, because there's no other way how you can get on it.
Uh-huh.
The ships are just they're so high that they'll have to throw a ladder at you or throw, and if you have a lot of people out there in the water, they'll throw a net where you can just climb up there. And that's the type of training that we took.
Were there many Mexican Americans at the training camp with you in Houston?
There was a few. There was like I said, there was 3 of us from Austin that left together, and then there were some from the other areas. Most of the people that came in to that training camp came up from the north. A lot of Yankees. We had a lot of Yankees that come up there, and but they're real nice people. They're real nice, and we had a good time. We used to have good times. I mean, we didn't go anywhere. I mean, we had our barracks there, but there was a few Mexican Americans that were from other parts of Texas. They were training there. We had some from California.
And how were the Mexican Americans treated at the training camp?
Well, at the camp, they were treated all right. I mean, we didn't have any problems at all whatsoever. Like I said, we had a lot of Yankees, and the Yankees were real good. They were real good friends. Because they had never, some of them had never mingled with Mexican Americans, because in some areas there were very few.
Mm-hmm.
But they were really, really nice people. Of course, I mean, we used to have fun with them, and they used to have fun with us because of the way they used to, the way they spoke, their, the Yankee accents, and so we used to make fun of them, and so therefore, it was a lot of fun. I mean, it wasn't just sad. It was really great. We took the training during the day, and at night we mingle a little bit, play cards or whatever, and it was just it was like living somewhere else, like living at home, but it was in a base.
Uh-huh.
But it was something else.
Now let's talk.
Now, one thing I forgot to tell you, where I took my training at was the base there was named Camp Wallace. I don't know who it was named for, but it was that's the way it was at the beginning when the Army had it. But when we went in there, they never changed the name. They just kept it as Camp Wallace.
Uh-huh.
And like I said, it was an Army base, but we converted it into a naval base. And of course, the training that the naval people take is different than the Army, because we used to do a lot of training in the ships, like I said before. And the Army, well, all they did was march. Poor guys. And so therefore, it was an amazing thing. And even what's really struck me funny is that when I came back from the service, I went back to Camp Wallace. That's where I got my discharge from.
Oh my! Was that normal that you?
Well, yes,
that
because
somebody would go back to the
well,
same
yes,
camp
because
where they
usually they try to send you back to the nearest base to your home.
Uh-huh.
And of course, that would have been California, because that was a big base there.
Uh-huh.
But since they had Camp Wallace there, they just sent us back to Camp Wallace and discharged us from there.
Well, that was going to be my next question about when the war was over, your trip back, and what you did, from the time you left Guam to when you came back to.
Well, one of the
Austin.
things that I did when we came back from Guam, we were sent. We came on a ship, and it took us, I don't know, 20 some odd days to get here, and they sent us out there to Portland, Oregon. And of course, I mean, we didn't have any dress clothes at all. All we had was just working clothes, because that's all we had in Guam. When we left, they took all our sailor's uniform, and I don't know what they did with it. But anyway, when we came back, we didn't have any dress clothes, so I was going to come home for 30 days leave, and then from here go to Wallace, and we'd ask our people. I said, well, what are we going to do about uniforms? I said, well, just go downtown and buy one. Yes, that's right. And of course, I mean, we had the money because when I was in Guam, I didn't have to worry about money. So all I did was saved all my money. I just told the Navy just save it, and they'd give me part of it, and I'd send it home to mother, and the rest would stay there. And when I got there was plenty of money there, so that I went into town, but I went in with several other people, and we bought uniforms right there on the spot. And here we come with a uniform and cap and all. And otherwise, it would have been just work clothes. And so, but it was really an experience coming out of there, and we waited for the train. And of course, when we got into the train, I told them that I wanted to stop in different places. So what do I have to do? They said, well, it's a different type of a ticket that they gave us. Because when we came back, some of the sailors wanted to stop in Denver, and I said, "Well, I've never been there, but I'll stop with you guys anyway." So we stopped in Denver and went all over town, and then sat down to eat, and then we went to the station and waited for the next train to come by, and got back, and then we stopped in, I don't remember what other cities we were, here in Dallas or somewhere, and then we came and drove us all the way home.
And so, how long was the trip from Oregon?
Well,
to
it had to have been about 3 or 4 days,
Uh-huh.
because we stopped in different places and just spent the night. Well, we didn't really go spend. We just go out and walking around and everything else, and we didn't worry about going to sleep. We just come back to the base, to the train station, and take a nap there and wait for the train. Because at that time we didn't worry about going into a motel or anything. Why spend the money that we figured, because we were short of money anyway. We only had what we had, and we didn't want to blow it away. so that's what we did. We'd spend the night in the train stations. We'd go out and walk around and do whatever, and then come back. That's what we did.
Tell me about what you did once you got back in Austin.
Well, when I got back to Austin, I just I was going to take a little time off and just celebrate and take it easy, but this optical company, called me at home. Well, they didn't call me because we didn't have a telephone, but they called one of my brothers and told him to get in touch with me, that they wanted to talk to me. So I went up there and talked to them, and they offered me a job right on the spot. And I said, well, when do you want me to start? They said, you can start right now. I said, I'm sorry, but I'm going to go home first. But anyway, I started working. I think it was must have been about a week after I got back. And I had, my intention was to spend at least 30 days. But no, I went to work, and it was really, really good, because it was right there downtown, and it was really nice that they offered me that job. And
Now, what doctors were those?
Doctors Ward and Treadwell,
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Ward and Dr. Treadwell. They were already older doctors. They were they were already in their 40s at the time, but they were very good doctors. They were optometrists, and I went to work with them, and I learned all of the trades about optical. Of course, I had started grinding lenses when I went in there. I finished that, and I learned how to put them together. And then the doctors, both doctors, called me down, and I went down there and talked to them. And they said they wanted for me to start fitting the glasses to people, because he said, we're doing it now, but then, we're just getting so busy that we need somebody, and we'd rather have you, since you know the whole shebang. I said, well, are you sure you want me to do the dispensing? He said, yes. I said, but the only thing is, we want you to please wear a dress shirt and a necktie. I said, okay. So that's what I did. I'd wear a necktie. I went to work this following Monday with my tie and all, and doctors looked at me and said, man, you look nice. So there it is, right there. He says, the doctor says, "Well, Pete, first of all, I want you to adjust my glasses." I said, "Okay." So I took him, sprayed him out, and get everything, fit him on and everything. And he said, "Man, that's all right. You did good." So then I went back up there and did my work. And then here comes some patients, and he calls me, "Take care of these people, Pete." Okay. And that's where I started. And I started dispensing, and oh, it was it was really awesome because I mean, not anybody could go down there and adjust glasses. I mean, because it's really you have to really know what you were doing. You have to know what tools to use, and you want to make sure that when you're adjusting, you don't want to be careless because you can break the lenses. And sometimes, well, anyway, I continue doing this, the dispensing, and of course finishing, making glasses and dispensing, and I just I never had any problems whatsoever, none whatsoever. It was in the late 40s, and it was downtown, and of course I used to wear my tie every day, and I started wearing a coat during winter, and I had a lot of good people, a lot of good patients that worked in the stores. We had a lot of had attorneys. They used to come by there and get their glasses from the doctor's treadmill, and I used to dispense them, and they all were very happy with me because I do a good job. And whenever they needed adjustment, they'd just come in and say, "Can you please adjust my glass?" I said, "I'd be more than happy to." And I never would charge them, so they would just go and they'd come back whenever they needed some glasses. And I did that to a lot of people. Like I said before, I did it even for governors, for their wives, and and a lot of doctors that were in those buildings there. They used to come down there and get their glasses with them because there was at the time there was very few optical places anyway. It's not like it is nowadays. Nowadays, you go and get a pair of glasses within an hour. Well, not in that day and time, there was no such thing. It would take 1 day to 2 days to get it done. But that was my career, and from there on, I went on, and then I was there with him for quite a few years until Dr. Ward passed away, and then I stayed with Dr. Treadwell until he just almost retired, and then I went then they asked me to go to another company, and Dickinson Optical, and then they invited me to come in and talk to the owners there, and I did, and they gave me the job right away, and I was with them for quite a few years. I was there in the downtown area, and then from there we went and opened up a place at Medical Park Tower, and of course some of the doctors that were downtown, that were out there now in that big building, it was a new building, Medical Park Tower at the time. They were glad to see me out there, so I didn't have any problems whatsoever. I just worked all the time I was there, and I did my job, and I used to have a lot of fun doing it.
Let's talk now about some of your friends and other Mexican Americans after the war. You had mentioned how the war affected you. How do you think the war affected other Mexican Americans?
Well, one of the things that affected some of those people that when they went into the service, they didn't have anything. They did not have anything whatsoever. So when they went into the service, they learned how to be, having everything. So when they came out, they had some of those people learn how to live. And so then when they came back, they were offered jobs. I mean, there was more opening for jobs than there was before then, because before the war there was hardly any work at all, and even Mexican Americans had a hard time finding jobs. Of course, I never did, but a lot of them did, and so there was a lot of openings for a lot of jobs there, and of course a lot of those people learned how to work. So when they came back, they didn't have any trouble finding jobs. Of course, I'm sure there were some that never did want to work, or some that just never did learn anything. I mean, they just did what they did, but that was it. And but the majority of people that I knew, they got good jobs. They did. Some of them became salespersons, and some of them became other things. Some people went back to school and went to trade school and learned how to do different things. Like we had schooling for mechanics at night. We had schooling for typing, for business, whatever. If you wanted it, you could get it done. And of course, the army, I mean, the service would pay for it. I mean, you had so many months of training that you could take that it would cost you, but since you were a service person, you were allowed so much money to take training. And that's what a lot of them did. They took good training, so therefore they had good jobs.
Tell me what Austin was like in the 50s and 60s for Mexican Americans. Was there any racial tension here that you experienced
well,
or that you heard about?
I never did hear anything about that. I mean, I never had any problems whatsoever. Like I said before, I went everywhere I wanted to go. I was never. Well, I mean, there might have been some people that didn't like you. I mean, that's normal. But I never had any problems whatsoever. Like I said, in the 40s, I went to work, and people that used to come down there, they never did say, I don't want you to help me. I don't want you to do this for me. I'd rather have somebody else. I never had any problems to that sort. And the doctors, they knew that probably there might have been some people that might not want to, but I never, like I tell my wife, I never had one person to deny. They say, I don't want you to work on my glasses. Never did I have.
Did you ever hear of any of your friends, Mexican American friends?
Well, there were some that, yes, there were some that used to say, well, I went there and then they treated me like a dog or whatever and things like this. I said, well, I've never had that problem. I said, but then, and like I said, I worked downtown, so I was able to go all over downtown and never had a problem.
How do you think the Chicano movement of the 1960s affected Mexican Americans?
Well, I really, tell you the truth, I don't know how it affected some of them. Some of them that got into that kind of programs. I never did enter any of that because I felt that, well, I said, I'm not treated badly.
Yes.
I'm treated good by these doctors, by these people, and I said I don't have to be that type of a person. But I had some friends that belonged to it, and they said it was very good because it did help a lot of people. It made people understand what they were all about. I said, well, the war itself had a lot to do with it. Excuse me. Because they knew that you went into the service to protect them. So when you came back, they had a different feeling of you, because they felt that you did go down there and fought the war to protect them.
Certainly.
So there was a lot of people that changed in a lot of ways right after the war.
Now let's talk about your marriage and your family. I've been dying to ask you this question. How did you meet Teresa?
Well,
and when did you meet her? Tell me all about
I met her. I met her right before I went into the service. I think I had known her for just a little while, and I went in there and I told her I was going into the service. And
do you remember how you met her exactly?
how did I meet her? I don't even remember exactly. Well, we used to have a bunch of friends that their friends knew her friends, and therefore we'd mingle. There was a place on Third and Kamala used to be like a little recreation center, and we used to go down there, and I think it's one of the places where she was, and I'd meet her, and of course I knew all of her other friends real well, and so they knew me real well, and so therefore we started.
About how old were you both at the time?
I don't know. I must have been about 18, 17 or 18.
And she was a few years younger.
Well, about a year younger, year and a half or so. And then after that, after I came back from the service, we decided we started dating again, and we'd go to dances. We'd go, of course, she was very involved in Saragossa part in that type of dances and all of that. And it was all right. I mean, it didn't make any difference. But from there on, we'd go to dances where we could dance in couples and all of that. And we used to have a lot of fun. We used to dance a lot. We used to go to nightclubs and go everywhere. And eventually, we decided that one day we went to a nightclub and I took an engagement ring and I proposed to her. And she accepted the rings.
When did you get married?
We got married in 1948 in February.
And tell me about your children.
Well, after that we started having children. We have our first son, Pete. We named him Peter, and we started raising him. And of course, we were living with my mother at the time. At the time, you used to remember we talked about living together and everything else, so we lived there. And before we knew it, we were expecting a second child, which is Carlos. And of course, we had the support of my brothers and sisters and my mother and father. Everybody was very happy that we had those children there, and they all used to care for him. My sisters, they used to love them because they were little girls too. But my father and mother and the grandparents, they used to just love them to death. And then after that, we had the daughter. It was about a year. I think they're about a year apart. 2 years. Linda was 2 years apart, and then we had we were. I had, like I said, I had my good job, and we were raising the kids, and my wife wasn't working yet. But at the time, I figured, well, it's time for us to go ahead and move on and get us a place. So what I did. We found a lot on Old Torf, and we went ahead and bought it and paid for it little by little. And then where I was working at, this friend of mine, he was a lens grinder also. His brother-in-law, his ex-brother-in-law, was a carpenter. He was building homes. So he said, I told him, that I was planning to buy a home and everything else. And so the doctors all helped me. Said, if you ever need any help, let us know. We'll be happy to, help you. And I said, okay, I said, the only thing I'm going to want is I'm going to want to have to get a loan from a good bank. So he says, then call one of the big banks, Austin National. There was a bank there on 11th and Congress. And so, they said, send them on over. And I went out there and applied, and then I talked to the contractor, and we had a house built back in the early 50s, right, honey? And so it was an amazing thing because very few people owned homes in those days. Of course, where I lived, my mother, they owned that house. But we're talking about friends of ours, nobody owned homes. So everybody was surprised when we had our house built and everything else, and moved out there, and living by ourselves. And then, of course, our other daughter was born while we were there, the youngest one. But it was just it was very, very good. I mean, I just enjoyed it so much that we were able to live like that, to buy a home for ourselves. And I'm sure she was too, because she wanted to be by herself, which is good. Of course, I mean, when we were with my mother, everything was there, so it was all right. But living by ourselves really, really did help a lot. It really, really did.
What are your children doing today, and how do you think their lives are different from
Well,
your life?
one of the things, the only difference is that they all moved out.
Mhm.
My oldest son married, and he works for ZTEL company, which is I don't know what they really do. It's a high tech, but he's he's in charge of several people out there. I don't know what he's a foreman of something. I don't know what it is, but anyway, he has done real good. He has a good job, and he has two children, two girls. And of course, one of the girls lives in Oklahoma, the one that has three children, three boys. Can you imagine?
Mhm. One is enough for me.
And then the other one lives in Germany. She's married to this soldier, and she doesn't have any children, but she's a very good person. They both lovable girls. And then, of course, my son, he went to Vietnam, and when he went to the service, he told his mother, he said, "Mother, when I come back, I will never leave you again." I said, "Okay, that's fine." So he went to the service.
He was still talking about his children.
Oh, I was talking about my children, right? Okay.
Carlos, you didn't mention.
I'm talking about, well, I talked about Pete already.
Yeah.
And so now my second son was Carlos. And now he was the one that I've told you about, was when going to Vietnam. He was in the service, came back on leave, and he knew he was going to Vietnam, but he told his mother that he would not leave her again. Well, anyway, he came back from Vietnam, and after a while, he went to visit his buddy out there in Massachusetts, and that's where he met his cousin. And so he came back, and then I think he was here for about a year. Then he decided to move to Massachusetts. And I said, you don't even know that part of the country. What are you going to do? He said, Dad said, I don't know. I said, I'm going to go down there anyway. Okay, so he went to Guam, to Massachusetts, and it was the city of Brockton. So he went out there, and the first thing he did was started driving a truck out there, going from one place to the other. And then he decided that he was going to go ahead and do something else. Of course, I don't recall whether he married before he went to be a firefighter or not. Well, anyway, he wanted to get married. So he called his mother and calls me and talks to me that he met, of course, his buddy's cousin. And he said, I'm getting engaged, and within a year I'm going to get married, so I want you all to go ahead and start planning a trip down here. I said, oh my God, okay. So anyway, in the meantime, he started getting a better job. He went and applied for a firefighter in Brockton. And up to now, he's still a firefighter. He's got, I think he has something like 18 years on it already.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, talking about his wedding, it was the most beautiful thing that I had ever seen, because I sent my wife and my daughter by plane about a week or two before the wedding. And then I drove out there with my son and his wife and kids, and so we decided to drive down there and see. And we went out there, and first thing I knew, Mother Teresa had already had plans for dinner, and then then her parents already had plans for the big reception. So we went out there and we start meeting everybody, all his friends that he knew, and her family, and they treated us just wonderful. Anyway, we had a good dinner the day before the wedding, and then on the wedding, we all went to the church, and he married by the church, and then we had the reception. They had a sit-down dinner in a country club, and then they had a big band to play. And it was, we danced all night long, and everybody was just tickled to death to see us out there, and we met a lot of people, and up to now we go down there and they'll still remember those days. And so
Is she an Anglo?
She's Irish pure. Her parents were from Ireland. Her grandparents were. Her parents were from there. Oh yes. And he's got 3 children. He has 2 children, and then the daughter has 3 children. And but they're all just beautiful people, beautiful. And every time we go down there, they just can't do enough for us. And of course, we can't go down there that often because it's quite expensive. But anyway, that was on my second son, and now he's doing real good. He's got a home out there. He's got a nice place. It's got acreage, and then he's got a swimming pool in his house, and he's got a nice area. He lives about, I'd say, it's about 25 to 30 miles from Brockton, up there in Lakeville, close to Cape Cod. But anyway, he drives to work and back and forth, and he just can't hardly wait to retire from there because he wants to see. When he went down there, he went and also went into college, and so he was taking a special course of wanting to work in the hospital, because he does medical work for how they do in the firefighters. He's a firefighter, and so he wants to do that. He wants to just go back to college and do that and work in a hospital. But right now he's just thinking about his family and everything else, and living, doing real good, and he's happy. He's very happy. Although I know that he misses everybody here, but nevertheless he's gained a lot of good friends out there, and so they all help him out in every way they can. And so he's done real good.
And what about your other children?
And my other ones, my daughter, she's married. They're both married. She married, and she has that one son that's in college right now. They have 2 daughters that are.
Which daughter is this now?
That's Herlinda, and they're up there, and they're 12 years old and then 10 years old, the 2 daughters. And she is a psychologist. She went to St. Edward's University and graduated from there. Then when she was married, she went to Notre Dame, not to Notre Dame, but to what's the name of that college? Indiana. And got another degree there. And she came back over here. She went to Southwest and got a master's. So she's a psychologist that she's got her own office with another friend of hers. And they do a lot of work for OSHA and different places, government jobs. And she does a lot of teaching. And they're very, very good people. They do a lot of work. And then, of course, her husband, which is my son-in-law, he's a dentist, and he has a big practice out there. So she works at both offices sometimes to help out because they're in need of help.
And what is his name?
His name is Oscar Quintana. And like whenever we go down there, my wife always manages to go down into the office and help out. because they need help all the time. But there, he's a very busy person. I mean, but he loves his job. He works all the time, and he works hard, and he's got assistants. He's got all kinds of personnel there. I don't know how many people they have in there, but he's got a bunch of them. But they have a big business, so they're always busy, and so therefore they're very happy. You know, they're very happy couple, and with the kids and everything else, they just.
How would you say that they're like? Have you talked about all your children there?
Well, my youngest daughter.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Veronica, she lives out there in Brock. She moved out there to Albuquerque also. Of course, she's a divorcee. She's divorced, and she lives out there with the two kids. The boys are also, 12 years old, 11 years old, I think, the boy, and the other one is 9 or something like that. But anyway, they're good boys, and she works at the office where Oscar Quintana is. His dentist office, and she does a very good job. She's of course she knows a lot about medical things because she worked here at the Austin clinic, right here in South First. So she knows a lot about illnesses, about Medicare. So she does a lot of that work over there. She helps them in any way. She runs the office. She runs part of the office, and she does a lot of book work, and she does a lot, anything they want to know, anything about anything, she'll help them out. But she has a good job out there. She does very good. She's very happy where she is. She lives in her house, and the boys are very happy. They're in school, and they're doing real good. I asked her, I said, do the boys really, are they really doing good in school? Or are they failing or what? I said, no, they have good grades. They're apparently doing real good. And of course, she has people that help her out, that gives them instructions and how to do things, and so it's really working out for her.
How would you say that your children's lives were different from your life?
Well, because the fact that, like I said, when we married, we all stayed home. We always managed to stay here. And them, they just, like the boys, they just moved out. And their life is just, of course, they're having a good life. I'm not saying anything wrong with that, but that generation, a lot of those people went out to different parts of the country and lived. When we were growing up, I just never felt like I wanted to leave Austin. I never felt like I wanted to leave, even though I was in service. There was this friend of mine in California who invited me to go live with him at home with their parents, and he had gotten permission from the parents that I could go up and live if I wanted to, until I decide what I wanted to do. But I never did. I never did really want to go back. I don't know why. I just never did. And I could have moved to California like a lot of my friends did. We have a lot of friends in California, and some of them moved to Chicago. And at that day and time, Chicago was noted for being a great city. And so a lot of my friends moved out there. But I think eventually they came back. Some of them came back, and there may still be a few of them living out there, but they all came back to their families.
How else were your children's lives different from your life?
Well, like I said, the difference is that they just kind of lived apart. They wanted to live their own lives. Like for instance, I lived at home all that time that I was growing up, and I was going to school. When they were going to school, we always provided automobiles for them. And each one of the boys, when they were into high school, we managed to get them automobile. They had their own cars.
And they all graduated.
And they all
high school.
graduated. And of course, the oldest one, the second oldest one, then the girl, and then the youngest. The youngest had one of the best cars in all of them. But they all had automobiles, and we had and she had hers, I had mine. So every morning when they go to school, each one would take their own car to school. Except my youngest daughter, when because she was still in junior high, I'd take her to school, or she would, whatever. But when she went into high school, she had her own car, and 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 that's just the way it was. And there was a difference in them and us.
Mhm.
But even then, they weren't people that would just go ahead and get their cars and take off and do whatever they wanted. They were always very close to the house.
Mhm.
They would come, and if they wanted to go somewhere, they would ask permission to go somewhere. Like on Saturday nights, if they wanted to go somewhere, they would go, but they would come home at a certain hour. And the same way with the girls. And so, they of course, my youngest daughter, she never hardly went out at night. She would always go with somebody else if she was going out somewhere. She wouldn't hardly take her car out because she didn't want to go out at night by herself. But that's the way it was. There was a difference of them and me.
Mhm.
We didn't have transportation except that except walk or whatever.
Mhm.
And we were limited as far as what we could do. I mean, of course we dated. I mean, that's no problem. But it was walking all the time. Where they didn't, they had their own automobiles, and that was the difference of them and us. And of course, we worked all the time, and they did. They worked some too. I mean, of course, they didn't work all the time, but they worked enough to help with the gas and stuff like this.
Mhm.
And of course, that day and time, it was when you needed to have liability insurance, and we had to have it. We had that. What do you call that? Five. It was 5 automobiles. So.
Wow.
Mhm. So that's the way it was. It was just amazing. But we enjoyed having them. We enjoyed them having cars and going out and coming back. We enjoyed them because they were always very, very good about all of this. They were not crazy people. They were not people that would stay out all night or whatever. They were very good people.
What are you involved in now in terms of community activities?
Well, I'm involved in church naturally. I'm an usher in church, and then I'm involved with my Catholic War Veterans organization. I'm a member of the American Legion, and of course, I do most of my work here at the Catholic War Veterans. I run the bingo. We have bingos on twice there, and I have an assistant that runs the Sunday bingos because I can't go on Sundays because I'm involved in church. But I go on Mondays. Every Monday I go down there and I run the bingos, and we have all of that. We do a lot of work. We have scholarships, help the poor, help the churches, help whatever comes up. We need them. We'll help them.
And this is at San Jose Church.
No, we have our own post.
Oh, at the post.
Yes, San Jose. That's where I belong, San Jose Church.
Mhm.
But we have our own post out here on Congress Avenue. We have our own. We ran a place out there from this gentleman, and we've been there. I guess quite a few years. But we're doing real good. We have very good projects. We have good projects. We have a ladies auxiliary. My wife belongs to it, and they do a lot of good work too. They do a lot of. They help a lot of people and everything else.
And which post is this? Does it have a number?
It's number 1805.
Mm-hmm.
It's post 1805.
Mm-hmm.
There's very few of those Catholic War Veterans posts in Texas. I think there's only about 6 of them. In those big cities we have. Well, Austin has one. San Antonio has 2. Uh, Westlaco has one. Mission, Texas, San Benito, those places. We used to have a lot more, but El Paso used to have 2 or 3, but they kind of run down. But,
About how many people are in this organization?
well, in ours we have 80, close to 90 people in there. Of course, you can't get them all to come at one time, but we have a good turnout.
And how many World War II vets are left in there?
Well, we used to have a lot of them, but now a lot of them have passed away. So we have about 3 I think is what we have of World War II. And of course we have Korean, have Vietnam veterans, and I don't know, we may not have any more other than that, Korean and Vietnam. But we have quite a few members. I don't just say that I want to mingle with my own people. I want to mingle with anybody. Of course, our organization is mostly Hispanic. We have Anglos in there, but it's mostly Hispanic. But we're doing work for a lot of things. Like for instance, one of our officers, we sponsor St. Elmo School, a public school. We sponsor them with money. We give them a lot of things. We have two of our members that go down there almost every day and take ice and sell ice cream and whatever it is with the PTA or with the school kids, and whatever money they raise goes to them, and we don't keep any of that. We just give it to them, and so they can go ahead and have their projects, because the public school will not give you anything. They will not issue you any money for any program. So we're a sponsor of that particular school, and so I mean it's not just you don't just go down there and help your own Hispanic. You help everybody. In the same way with our organization, I mean we help anybody. We help the Anglo, we help the black people, whoever needs the help is there, and we mingle with just anybody. I mean and like I said, this is what I see in some of our Hispanics, that they do not mingle with other people. They just want to stick to their own. I mean, they just feel like they don't want to go with anybody else. They just want to be among themselves.
Do you see any other problems that Mexican Americans still have?
Well, the thing about it is they start when they're little, and then they get to where they want to be together, and they go ahead and drop out of school. They don't want to continue with their school. They just want to have fun. They just don't. And of course, a lot of that is blamed on the parents too, because the parents don't seek that they need to do this. They don't need that they need to go to school. They don't push them. They don't push all of that. And one of the things is that a lot of our Hispanic parents, Mexican American parents, do not belong to the Parent Teachers Association. And so therefore, when you don't belong, you don't know anything about your children. Like my wife and I, we were PTA members since our kids were first graders up until they graduated. We were always, I was an officer, she was an officer. We were always there for them in elementary, in junior high, and in high school. We were always right there with them, and they knew it. And of course, we mingled with everybody, and our children knew it, and so they did the same thing. Like children, they're married to Anglos. There's 2 boys, so you can see what I mean. And so therefore, it's really it's it's really belonging to these organizations that helps the families. I always wanted. I know that when we were in high school, that we were there in a PTA. They didn't have that many Hispanics coming into the PTA. We knew there was some. Some of our good friends were there, but there was a lot of kids in there that they just their parents never did care.
Mm-hmm.
They just never did want to join. And we did, you know, we even when the kids used to take tours to San Antonio and Corpus Christi, we used to volunteer and go. I'd get out of my job and go volunteer with them, and we'd go with them, and we'd be, you know, it'd be so many two parents or four parents to a bus, and we'd be with them. We'd go everywhere and help them out and everything else. If they needed money, we'd give them the money. If anybody of the kids needed money to buy food, we'd give them the money. I mean, it was no big deal to me. But a lot of parents don't do that. Mm-hmm. Like you take nowadays, I mean, you go to the schools and you can see that the Mexican American parents just don't go. They don't have any interest in PTAs.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I don't know. I think it's just some of those people are just laid back, and like I said, they start from scratch. They get into this areas. They're young kids, and they don't go into school, so therefore they start having family, and they just don't follow through. So they're just there.
What do you think are the advances that Mexican Americans have made in your lifetime?
Well, there's some that have made some advances. There's some that I'm sure belong to different things, but it's not like it should be. I mean, I can see it. I mean, I can see it even around the areas in different places, you know, that we go to. We can see that it's not the parents aren't there to help out, and so therefore, I mean, it's really hard for the kids. If the kid doesn't have their parents behind them, they're not going to be able to do too much. I mean, they're not going to succeed in a lot of things because they want somebody to back them up, you know.
You had mentioned before when we were talking about the war and the effect that the war had on Mexican Americans. What sorts of positive effects going back from World War II to today do you see? What positive things have happened for Mexican Americans?
Well, one of the things that has happened is that they've given more opportunities for jobs. I mean, there's more opportunities, whereas before, you know, they couldn't hardly get any jobs. But after the war, it's very easy to apply for any type of a job, and you can get it as long as you have a certain type of an education. And this is where I'm saying is that a lot of the kids don't continue schooling, so therefore they're just poor guys that are working for nothing, almost for nothing. But the opportunities are there. Now you take anybody who goes into the service right now and comes back within 2 years, they have an opportunity to go into college and get good training. They're paid for, and they can go to school. And therefore, I say the service is a very good thing for people. I mean, even though if it's in peacetime or whatever, it's good for a person to go into the service, because when you come out, you have a good chance of going into college and getting paid for it. Whereas if you don't, you have to scrub from somewhere to be able to make it. And it's not easy because everywhere you go to college is going to cost you money. And you see, this is what some of the things that we do. We give scholarships out to kids, but I know that those scholarships don't go very far because schooling costs a lot of money nowadays. But we help out anyway. We help them out, and just like this past year, I think we gave something like $5,000 or $6,000 in scholarships.
Well, scholarships too are a moral
Yes,
boost.
right. It moves the kids that to keep continue school
Mm-hmm.
because they get help and they say, well, those people are interested in me, so I'm going to continue going.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so therefore.
Do you consider yourself Mexican American, Hispanic, Latino? What term do you use to describe yourself?
I just use Hispanic.
What advice do you have for younger generations, for your grandchildren and your great grandchildren to come? What advice do you want to?
Well,
leave us
the only thing is, I advise them when I'm with them. I just talk to them. I want to ask them about schooling, ask them about different things and what they would want to do later on in years and what they want. If they need anything that'll help them out while they're growing up, well, we'll try to help them out in any way we can. But it's we talk to them and we have fun with them. We enjoy them. But my two boys, like the ones that they live with their mother alone, they need more help than the girls that live out there because they have their parents. And although we talk to them, I talk to the boys, and I think it means more because they need a parent like me to advise them a little, and they take the advice. They're very good about that. They're good boys. I mean, they're not troublemakers or anything, and this is what I miss a lot, not being there to advise them.
Mm-hmm. Do you have some specific advice that you would like to leave for younger generations? What, from having lived your life, what advice would you give the next generation?
Well, the next generation, I'll say that the first of all is they should go to school. School is one of the main projects that I would recommend for anybody, because without school, you're not ever going to get anywhere. And of course, back then in those days, if you didn't have a lot of school, you could still get you a good job. Of course, there wasn't that many jobs available then, but like nowadays we have this high tech, and you just can't if you don't have your education, you can't get into high tech, and that's where the money is.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, I say that I recommend that any child that's growing up should always be facing the school. Should always be thinking about school, and not just think about pleasures. Because you can go into school and still have a lot of fun. Because they got softball, baseball, soccer, you name it, and you can still have fun and still be in school. So therefore, I say, school is your main project of the kids that I would recommend that they should continue.
Is there anything that you would like to add to your interview? I know we were talking about your days in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. If there's anything else at this point that you want to add, go ahead.
No, like I said, Hawaii was just a very, very minimum thing. It was just a week or two there that I was there. What we did there was we did a lot of painting in those barracks, and they'd let us off at 1 o'clock so that we could go into town and just go visit, because they knew that we probably wouldn't see Hawaii again. And we used to go down to Hawaii. We used to walk down there and ride, and they'd pick us up in trucks, drive us out there. But we couldn't go into the bars or anything because I wasn't old enough. I was only 19, 20 at the time, so they wouldn't allow us in there. And then at night, like I said, there was blackout, so you had to get out of there and come back home before dark. Because even the automobiles that were on the highway, I mean, there was no lights. I mean, you just try to get out of the streets before dark. And that's why we had to leave before, so we could get a ride home and then get into our barracks, and that was it. But it wasn't what it is now. They say Hawaii is beautiful and all that. Of course, I mean, it's different now, I'm sure. But at the time, it was during wartime, so therefore, that's what it was. But I at least I got to know Hawaii, the main island, Honolulu.
What did it look like?
It was different than the United States. I mean, there was the people were different. The people were different, and of course, like all those Hawaiian dancers, I never got to see any of them because they wouldn't let us into the places where you could see them. But you know, we saw a lot of Hawaiian girls out there in the streets, and but that was it. We never did, never did see any of those big dances. But they say that it's all beautiful now, so I don't know. I told my wife, I said, we ought to go down there, but she never has really cared.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we end the interview?
No.
Okay, well, if you sure there isn't anything else?